Hello. It's nice
Hi, how are
to
you?
meet you. I'm very good. I'm very good. I'm so excited about talking to you and having you as my guest for this podcast, Embodied Freedom, because I have all this memory of us dancing and then seeing how our life journey has like evolved till now. And I know you're a mom of two children's, and there's been so much evolution. So I feel like I almost yeah, but we would need to talk a lot to completely catch up. But
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I'm so excited to have you as a guest because so I just want to like introduce a little bit the intention for this podcast that I'm just starting, and I'm excited about this journey because
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's gonna evolve on its own. Yet, basically, what I'm very curious is like different approaches to movement and movement as a healing medium, and in our like daily life, how much how much embodied we are and what embodiment is, and how can we like feel fully actually aligned uh, with our bodies, but meaning like body, mind, and spirit. And there's like so many different like views. But me and you,
Mm-hmm.
as a former professional dancers for many years, I think we came to this world of like embodiment, somatic dance therapy, just like seeing the movement as a healing medium through like a very interesting way, right? Like training as a dancers and like really being in our bodies, but also like I feel like there was this side which is not always the healthiest side, right? Like we also like overworked and we like pushed our limits, and there was a lot of like conditioning that we also had to go through as being in the very high competitive performing world of a
Mm-hmm.
dancers. And also the classical dance, I think there is something about classical dance. There's a lot of rules to follow, and yeah, and it is beautiful. Like if I go back, I will never change the fact, that I was dancing professionally for so long. So I just want
Mm.
to like leave it here, and I would love to let you just introduce yourself a little bit, and just I'm so curious to know like what's your passion at the moment, like what's your like what's your dreams, what's your big vision, small vision, wherever you want to pick it up.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you. It was such a joy to get your little message and be like, wow, someone actually appreciates what I do, and there's other ones, people doing it around the world. So it's really nice to have this connection, especially when I'm in a challenging place right now, trying to establish and trying to help people just even understand what their body, like where their body is, even, and then like diving deeper. So, yes, so I am, yes, Renata, from Australia, but based now in rural Australia, just 2 hours west of Sydney. But I guess left Australia at 18 years old, went to ballet school with Eva, and then had a full-time career from then. We re-met in Montreal and had some really beautiful moments and sharings on stage and off. But yeah, there were always some barriers that in these institutional kind of areas, which I found really problematic. And I feel that this whole kind of journey I'm on is is really due to all of that as well. You know, like it's all brought us to where we are today.
Totally.
Um, yeah, so where do I start? I guess my passion and in like a simple word is basically to help every person connect in their body
Mm.
on whatever level. Um, I was just at this beautiful celebration of dance. It was in the Blue Mountains. It gathered all of the adult dance groups in the area, And it felt like I was 15 again back at a Stedfords. But after I got over that, I was just so happy to see people on stage just like trying to remember steps and like do their thing and smile and stay very frontal, but they were doing it. And I was just so proud of that because I feel like this world, um, everyone's so like the inhibitions. They won't let themselves go there and have a good time or challenge themselves or do something. Yeah, that helps them in so many different ways. So yeah, my biggest passion is that and reconnecting, I guess, with the joy of dance. Like, I think that's the ultimate in this. I went through that myself. So I remember back in like I think it was Montreal days. I was in the studio and I was like in rehearsals, whatever, and I was like, why am I doing this? Like I actually forgot. And it was my sister that was like dance that it makes you happy. Like I was like, it used to make me happy. Does it make me happy anymore? And so I would just like lock myself in the studio and just dance it out. And I remember even gifting my friends this, like Vera. I remember we put on whatever music or whatever, and I led her through this beautiful, I would call it a gift to my friends, like, and I would let them just let things out and I would walk them through these different things. And this is like a long time ago. I didn't even know what I was doing at the time. I was just doing it, right? Because I needed to gift them that beauty of dance without steps, without like a choreography that has to be to this music and everybody else in line, you know? So it was just that pure essence of self and ultimately joy, but it's also that freedom that you get after processing and going through that experience. Yeah, so yeah, and so in Australia, I've created a company. It's called Move and Groove, and I guess it is it is about the access and the inclusivity, because also coming from a classical ballet background, you know, and seeing well, what about all the boys? Why aren't they dancing? Because they don't want to wear pink tights and tutus. They just want to dance, you know? So it's really kind of figuring that out and also helping people. So there's the access. I wanted to create a world that people could just be part of our process and our creativity because I realized like making works, how exciting it is. Like we get to research something, we get to go through this whole process about this topic or this idea. We get to work with people, like teamwork. Like I just realized how awesome dancing is like all around, you know, and with connecting with people. This is when I get really passionate because I'm like, yeah. Uh, um, yeah, so there was that side. And then also, it's kind of two things of why I started it as well is I wanted to teach how I wanted to teach. I didn't want to teach like I was teaching ballet, but I was doing it in my way, but it wasn't what I wanted. And also, I wanted to be able to create a understanding of dance in Australia. I feel like contemporary dance is really misunderstood, where people want to know answers. They want to know, well, I didn't get it. Did you? And I was like, it's not about that. So I wanted to like go in, even if it's like such small groups, but help people experience this, contemporary dance. So yeah, I wanted to create something that people could experience to understand the impact of dance without like, and so go to see shows and actually be like, oh, it's okay that I don't know what's happening, or maybe I do know a bit more because I can change my mind about what it is now. Like I'm a bit more open-minded. Does that make sense? So I guess in my classes, as well as that embodiment, as well as that process through self, but it's also that creative side of things. So like, seeing movement and having your own critical response to that or your own idea about what's going on instead of being told. Does that make sense? So a lot of dance, say we've got line dancing or we've got belly dancing and everyone wants the steps and they know what they are and that's it. And then, haha, we just look and smile. But I guess contemporary dance and stuff that I'm really interested in is that stuff you feel. And it's allowing, I wanted to create a space where it could open people up to feel and like receive what's happening. Does that make sense? Instead of just like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, it makes so much sense. And I
So,
just want to bookmark that because for me, what's coming here is like this, it's like this like right and left brain. And then like uh, for me, embodiment and like working from the body is literally trying to we love the mind. The mind is incredible. We don't want to say like this is an evil part, but it's like it's very important. Yet we are so conditioned to live in this like analytic, rational mind. And so even like what you're sharing for me, it's almost like that's the first place we go. It's like trying to understand. But it's actually coming like it's not about understanding from there. It's really like, as you said, like understanding from the body, right? Like it's the sensory, it's the feeling, it's the what does it make me experience before I like analyze it in my brain, on my right brain. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
And it's also quite a like it's definitely mindful because you're being aware of like your thoughts and things. So I go back to like when I was a kid and I used to watch things and like these random things that came up in my brain, and I used to shut them down because I was thinking it wasn't how you meant to watch shows. Because
Mm.
I, like, but that's like, and but that's part of it. Now I think back, like, but I was like, oh, I have to watch if they're doing that arabesque, or like I never, even as a kid watching performance, like I couldn't appreciate it as much because I guess I was trained in it, so I had this very like cynical eye in that sense, but I wasn't trained to receive what was happening. And it's either good or bad. That's the other thing I get mad at. It's like, nah, there's no good or bad. It just is. So,
You get
yeah.
it, yeah.
So, yeah. And I guess being in Australia, there isn't as much appreciation for dance and the arts. And it's really about, yeah, that education, I guess, through that embodiment and that creative lens. And all my dreams are huge. There's so many that I get overwhelmed and then I go, oh, I've done nothing, which I know I've done so much, but um, also while having two kids. So I go, what have I done? But I guess a big point of things that a big part of what I've done, and I guess one of the questions was I think a transformative kind of moment, and then that's that building a community through dance, and I have done that in the city over the last 5 years. And there's probably about 10 to 15 women that come together weekly now, and they I can step away, and I've like it's really powerful to see how we've used dance and experiences and stories and our bodies to connect them, and now they are good. Like I trust who they are as a group, and I've moved away and I've been able to find someone I hope that can hold the space as well. But I know that that was such a powerful thing. But I know that it was only made possible because we were able to access the body, which is a vulnerable state, and people were able to share stories, and then yeah, the rest is just kind of that listening um, space that people felt safe um, to tell their stories, and then also just to listen and receive the story. So I guess yeah, that's been a really beautiful moment. I did make a work with them as well 2 years ago, and it's not gonna like go on the opera house stage. Maybe one day it is, but I guess it's the process. It's really the process of how we made that work together and how their stories influenced basically everything we did.
I wanna know more about. So you say their stories. How did you approach
Yeah,
that? Was it like
their stories.
mhm.
Oh, it depends.
Mm.
In the work, you mean?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, like when we made the work. The work was about women, and I was so curious about what they think of over their lives. So these are older women, right? So they've seen a dramatic change in things. And one of the tasks, for example, was what's a moment in your life that you felt really proud of. Yeah, so this is a story, we're breaking into little groups, sharing, and then we're embodying that story. And then when we come to it in the piece, it's more than just a step. Yeah, it's that person, like skydiving when she became a grandmother, or it's that person um, who did her arts degree after being told when she was, a 20-year-old that she wasn't allowed to do it,
Mm.
things like this. So I guess it takes this idea of embodiment to another level because it is that sharing of stories as a group as well, not
Right.
just your own.
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. 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 There's something powerful about like the witness, like when we work in a group, because we're social beings. We're supposed to be connected. Like I hear you on the community, the connection, the
Mm,
importance of touch and importance of like sharing space. And
mm,
I really feel that like movement for me is also a connection. Like because once we are connected to ourselves, of course we are interconnected energetically also with others. And I love what you said. Like
mm,
so, I think it's there's a power of like also if I share my story and then that story becomes embodied by other bodies, it like lives on its own. It's like yeah, it's like
mm.
going through me to like it's like a channel, like I channel it, but then it's like manifested, and then like the energy moves differently. I would even say like
Yeah.
it it's very powerful to be witness, yeah, and to
Yeah, and it's
like
also a celebratory. It's like, like really, I feel like we don't celebrate enough. Like, how do we celebrate even? Like happy birthday? Yeah, I don't know. It's just a deeper level of yeah, of connection. And I guess a lot of the stuff I do is all about stories. It's all about who's in the space. Even if the story of the day is how you feel, like,
mm,
that's still going to impact what we're doing.
mhm, mhm,
Um,
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I work a lot with theatre as well. So there's this beautiful company here called Milk Crate Theatre, and I literally was in Canada and I went, I want to work for them. And yeah, second year in, I was there, so which was awesome. And we've just, yeah, and we've continued working even with me being out here. Um, and they work with theatre, like more drama, this kind of style. Um, but what was I going to say? I guess I was just saying that a lot of the stories come out through a theatre, like the actual stories, like Once Upon a Time, or This Was a Moment, or this is important to me because, all those games, and it's all through games, yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
And I've really embraced that. And I have done a lot more theatre now, which has been really fun because that's always a part of me that I've loved and I never really got to do, but
Mhm.
then also taking it into a physical, abstract way as well,
Right.
which is what I like as well. I don't, yeah, I'm not such a narrative type of person when it comes
Yeah.
to like a performance or making,
Yeah.
but yeah, and I think if you can help people feel safe and playful is a huge other part of what
Huge.
I do.
Mhm.
Like I have so many games, and like you're the silliest person in the room, but then you allow people to kind of just play. It's
Mhm.
something I find, especially now reestablishing myself out west, is that it's really hard for me people to connect with. Everyone's a bit serious. Like it's okay, we can just play a game. It's not childish. Some people are like, oh, that's so childish, or you know.
Mm.
But I'm like, no, it's just because children play and adults don't. Why, and well, I remember one of my students that kept coming back for years. She was like, the one thing that attracted me was the play aspect. And I was like, yes, great, I love you. Like you're speaking my language. But sometimes it's quite hard. So you really have to like slowly make your way in. And even if you just do like a very analytical kind of class, very like structured class, but still have a very playful kind of tone to it, or little things that you put in along the way. Yeah, yeah. I do things the hard way sometimes, like because I really believe in what we do is so powerful that
Mm.
um, yeah, I feel that if I don't really know what I'm saying here, but I think if I put in little things slowly, like the shift will happen.
Mhm. Mhm. No, I love
Because
that.
it's, yeah.
Yeah. No, it requires a lot of resilience and patience because we as a society we're just conditioned to very much live in the head more, right? Like
Mm,
it's not the and I feel there is the shift and it's almost like a movement. Like I'm so happy to see that like somatic is becoming quite a popular thing. Just the awareness that like we
mm,
are, because for me also, you know, there's such a difference between like going to the gym. I mean, of course it's it's like it's not the same. Like it's going to the gym and moving for exercises. It's again, it's very analytic. It's like there is a goal. There is like I'm doing it because I wanna whatever lose
mm,
weight, get a cardio. But this like healing approach to movement, because eventually like we are movement, right? Like we are our body is constantly moving even as I'm talking to you, right? There's a movement inside of us. And it's
mm,
energy and it's the playfulness which you mentioned to me when I work with people. It's a lot like what I get people we're so used to judge, right? There's this like judgment and I'm like, what about being curious? Like I think curiosity and playfulness goes together. And it's this like
mm,
we actually I see the kids as my teachers. Like I'm like, hey, like we should actually learn from the kids because they just, especially the very little ones, you know, they just came from being being connected to everything. They're like they're
mm,
connected, you know, they're like they have all this wisdom, they just don't have words and they're not conditioned yet. And so like we can actually observe the child and be like, oh my God, like there's so much substance that we can learn, which is the curiosity, which is this like why did we stop being playful and curious? And just
mm,
like having spaces like you hold to a question and to like feel again like, hey, how does it make me feel if I play, if I'm curious about my body and what do you want
mm.
to do? The
Yeah,
story,
wait, oh,
yeah,
sorry.
please go.
Oh, it takes me back to, I guess the question of how this all started.
Mhm.
And one of the like huge moments as well was I did, I don't know if you know, but Vera did it. We did a like a lab. It was 60 hours. It was really, it was a lot. Like it felt like, because it was also spread out. And it was between the Dance Therapy Center and Cirque du Soleil, Cirque du Monde. So we had, so it's called social arts, like, and we kind of covered all of the arts. And it just takes me back to then, and Rosa Maria, beautiful dance therapist that now lives, I think, back in Barcelona. She taught me so much, and I'm still in contact with her because I just love her. And yeah, and even that way that she's like, you know, this idea of curiosity. She's like, you see people every day in your life, like your partner or your mum or dad, and it's like you never see them with the curiosity that you see with strangers. And like it took me back straight to that because it's like, how do we stop all that judgment, that baggage in ourselves instead of just suddenly go into this is who I am or all the labels or whatever that you put on yourself or that talk. But instead, that word of curiosity is like, well, what happens if my neck can do this and this and this? Or what happens if I feel this in my shoulder?
Mhm.
As well as awareness, because some people don't feel parts of their body ever. They don't have no idea what their elbow's doing, or you know, who knows what their back of their leg is doing. We don't really know all the time either. But yeah, so there's that awareness, but then that curiosity after that, 100%, which is yeah, it has to be with playfulness because it's light. It's not. You don't have to. Yeah, there's this feeling
Yeah,
of lightness with
yeah,
curiosity that
yeah,
is really helpful. But
yeah.
yeah, and that was a beautiful course that really opened up so much of what the arts can do for me.
Mm.
Um, I guess, I guess it's funny, I saw you, like, you said embodiment, and I was like, what's embodiment? Like, I actually Googled it. I was like, what is embodiment? Should I be using that in my marketing? Maybe that's why, like, I'm having a moment at at
Mm.
this point. I'm like, maybe I need to switch what I'm calling it.
Mm,
because people aren't responding to dance as much. I need to call it movement.
mm.
But it's funny because I looked up embodiment and I was like, oh yeah, that's what I do, duh. But it's funny because I've never really like called it that. Like, and so I guess because it's quite, I know it's not a very popular word here.
Mm.
Uh, and like, come on, I can't even use the word dance. Like people have their stigma and their ideas around what dance is. So I really struggle with language and how to articulate what we do. Um, but yeah, I lost my train of thought on that. But yeah, this idea of the word. I forget.
No, and also thank you for bringing this up because, I think for me too, like embodiment, this word came just recently. It's not like, because me too, I
Mm,
was searching for the right word because I was like, okay, like I come from the dance background, but there's so much association to when I say dancing, and there is so much like
mm,
styles as we talked about, and then there is this like, so which sometimes I found like it's a pity because dance is also for me like dance and singing are like our innate rights, right? It's like that's how our ancestors celebrated life through dancing and singing, like, and that's how they also healed. That's how they communicated with not just themselves but also like
mm,
with the land. And I mean,
mm,
it's a rituals, right? Like
mhm,
and so for me, dance, and I also here for you, it's like it was our medicine, and then we forgot why we were like dancing because we were so like in the industry, and like we were kind of like, okay, it's become work, right? It became work. But the embodiment, so that came also just recently, and not many people actually know this word. So like sometimes they're like
mm,
like it's still like it's a word that is coming, but
mm,
it's like making its way. And so I'm so happy that you got the word because it's really coming back to the body. It's like, also what you mentioned, and I wanted to also like anchor that, which I found super important. Um, like like feeling just the shoulders, or like as you said, like becoming aware. Like we're not taught to be aware of our bodies. Like it's crazy, right? And then like no pain,
mm.
no gain. It's almost like, oh, if you're hurting, just like go through it. Like what, where are we? And the
That's
body
true.
like
Oh God.
communicating to us constantly. And I
Mm,
actually realize, like the body never lies. The body is always gonna tell you the truth. And so it
mm,
can be such an incredible guide when, like, if I have some kind of sensations, it's also like, as you said, the stories, but it's like the body has its own story, but it has its own wisdom. So it's not linear, it's not logical, yet it can give us such an important direction of like, let's say I don't know what to do in my life and I'm like really stuck. Like I'm gonna be very stuck in my body. My neck is not gonna move. Like, so it's like this first signs to just like starting to like become aware of like, okay, what is my body telling me right now? And then you
mm,
start to learn the language, and then once you befriend your body, you can literally, and it's difficult, it's very difficult, but like then you can be like, hey, like the body is my best friend and it's guiding me. It's like it's telling me where I'm happy, where I'm not happy, what I should be eating, what I should not be eating, how I should be. It's like communicating to us constantly. How am I like doing things from the heart, or like do I overthink things?
mhm.
Tension headaches. Like the
Yeah,
body it's such a
yeah.
communicator.
I guess the biggest opening to that, and we all suffer from like not being in connection with our body, even when we're teaching this stuff. But we're sharing and offering this stuff. But was pregnancy and birth. I think that's a real massive surrender to, like, you grow a baby, you don't think about it, do you? You have to just let your body do it. And, yeah, my mantra was if I'm good, baby's good. But what does it mean to be if I'm good? I have to be all these things. And birth's the same. Like, it's the most natural thing we experience. And it's just like, it's like I remember I finished, I gave birth to my first, and I remember looking in the mirror like a week later and just being like, I'm never going to complain about you again. Like, especially the careers and what we went through, and all the stuff we had to deal with body image wise. Like, I was just like, you are amazing. Like, the fact that like this did this, like, and that appreciation is just so huge. And you don't have to have a baby to be able to do that, but it's just like it's very obvious, right? Um, and it's because it does, like, you can give thanks for your feet for helping you walk all day long. Like, we just kind of expect these things, but no, they're good feet and they're moving you in space. Like,
Mhm.
um, so we did one of my classes yesterday was looking at the feet and how much we can articulate that, and also give gratitude and thanks to them because
Yeah.
they're there, they're doing their thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. But yeah, going back to that word embodiment too, I guess I used to look at that word as if it was very spiritual, because everything I did was called that was spiritual, that was embodied. And although I'm all about spiritual, I'm trying to bring access to what we do. So sometimes it's not as helpful. Um, but like I think about that word and it so makes so much sense, like if I sometimes we just have an object, I don't know, I've got this next to me, and we look at that and then we embody these types of things in the like from this to our body. We have the squares, we have this, we have the hardness, we have the holes. So, and that's actually embodiment, right? Like it's kind of bringing your embodiment, yeah. Like I'm like not crazy, am I? So it's nice. The more we talk about it, the more I'm actually like, oh wow, like there's more than just,
Mm.
the energies and the connection. Um, on a spiritual level, it's also can be quite accessible without kind of being a bit simple, I guess,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
clearer. I don't know what the word
Mhm,
is to
mhm,
say
mhm.
that correctly, but
No, I hear you on the,
um,
like the access, the accessibility, and the minute we start, like me too, sometimes if I use too much of a spiritual language, it will sort of, yeah, some people might be like already like they just kind of stop listening. It's another
mm,
conversation. Um,
mm,
Yet the embodiment, for me also, it has to do something with like we have ideas, like we know, let's say I become aware of something,
hmm
whether it's a pattern or I became aware, like I read this incredible book and I suddenly have this like opening and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm understanding something.
hmm
Yet, if I'm not putting it, and that's where I think the word embodiment really works for me. It's like if
mm,
I don't put that thing from the conceptual mind and like me like imagining into my body, because I'm a human being and I live in this flesh, meaning if I don't really
mm,
like allow my body to feel it and to become it, it
mm,
will just be a concept. And like you can see that with people who will come to you and they will, let's say, coaches, and they will be coaching you about I don't know what, right? But then you look at them and you literally, your body feels that they're just talking to you, but they have no clue. Why is that? Because it's all just conceptual. It's like they read it, like they read the
ah,
book,
yeah,
they did the
nice,
study, but they did not embody it. And that's
yeah,
where like I feel the power lies in this word. It's really like
mm,
because once we bring it into this physical um, space and like we really become it with our
mm,
body, then we also are starting to walk it. It's like it's yeah. So
mm.
it's a powerful word and a movement.
Yeah, no, I totally, it makes so much sense. I feel like, yeah, after our conversation, it's like, oh, it's going to influence me a lot in the work that I do.
Mm,
But honest, like also just on a, even just, I keep bringing objects back because I
Yeah.
think that's a good stimulus for people to see and then kind of figure out what that means for them. But then use those objects in a way that isn't conceptual anymore, but then go to like, well, if I do hard movements, what is that about? And where is that taking me? And then go on that journey as well. I don't know how that with the word embodiment, but yeah, it's just it's interesting at how many ways and kind of things. I guess what I'm trying to do is like think about my work and how um, this can connect um,
Mm.
without without it being too lost in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, I love it. I'm gonna check the chat and just see if there is one question that I really feel important because we already
Oh yeah.
kind of covered the first two. Mm, this one. Okay. Yeah, actually, okay, I would like to know a little bit, like, do you remember this like specific moment in your life? Because you kind of mentioned, but like it's again like maybe I'm curious, like what brought you to movement? Like in like, if you have like a memory in your life as a kid or later where you were like, this is my medicine, this is my, this is I feel like that's your past movement, body, dance.
hmm
Is there like a turning point, like when you
But is it dance or is it kind of like what we do now or
mm,
everything?
I would say like movement. When did you start? Because the dance, it gets tricky, right? It's
Yeah,
like
it's true.
not when you started to like learn dancing, more like you start to move
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
and
I remember I
express.
was in yeah, I was in Madrid. We never did it at school though. It's weird. I think
Yeah.
we went. Yeah, like this idea of improvisation. Like, where did that go? Like, I look at you know dancers training now, and that's all they do. They do so much improv. And I look at my career and my past, and I was like, what? Anyway, but I taught myself. I locked myself in the room because the same kind of like just letting it out, and I did it just so intuitively. I would after what we finish at 6 o'clock, and then I would just like get in a studio and I would just put music on and I would just improvise. And then I'd have my little videos and then I'd connect them, and that's how I started making as well. Like, didn't really do a lot of making before that, apart from like maybe in ballet school in Sydney. And it wasn't making to how kids are taught to make today. Like, oh my God, like yeah, so it was that ability, and I just knew it. I just knew I had to move. And so I would in the way that I needed to. So I guess that's what the movement is. It's not the being told the 5, 6, 7, 8. It's just like put music on and it's an authentic movement. Um, yeah. And then and then it kind of continued in every company I went. Like I can remember moments of I just locked myself in the studio and everyone's gone home. Make sure I lock the door. And it all just came out because I guess a lot of the world of of company life is a lot of it was sitting down and like rolling out waiting for your 10 minutes of rehearsal a day or whatever it was. So you didn't actually get to dance a lot, which sounds ridiculous. But yeah, I think it's not all the time, but you have your class, but then, by 10 o'clock, if it wasn't your ballet, it wasn't your part in that moment, then you weren't dancing for like a month. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think that was my way of dealing with that. So yes, that's pretty much the way movement coming came through.
Mhm.
Um, I was gonna say, also then in Montreal, probably 10 years or so later, from that moment, I started realizing, yeah, the power of of dance on my mental health, of this, um, of this release, of like whatever this authentic movement is. So, And something would happen, and then since like my time in Australia, if something would happen, I would just get a studio. And I remember like when my grandfather died, I would just process it in the studio, and I would, I've got all these beautiful videos of him playing.
Mm,
We had recordings of him playing the harmonica, the fisharmonica,
mm,
and I would just move to them and like process it and cry and just like, so
mm,
I realized, yeah, it was so essential to processing anything. Um, and then if something happens, I'm like, I gotta get in a studio, and I don't do it enough. I don't do it anymore. Like being a
mm,
mum, I don't prioritize it at
mm.
all, especially since two mums are moving to the country, two kids are moving to the country. I just really don't. But this conversation will make me.
Mm, yeah.
um,
Mm,
yeah, I think I do what I do for that release, and definitely mental health. Although I pretend that it's more a physical thing, so people can maybe come into it. But I yeah, 100%.
mm,
Um, it's helped me through a lot. Um, and even motherhood. I did a whole piece on identity when I stopped being a professional dancer. I did.
mm,
And so I think that's why I work with communities now, because I realize how you can choose something and really process it and really access it in such a deeper sense than just like sitting around the table or going to a therapist and talking about it.
yeah,
Yeah, moving with it. It's that
yeah.
embodiment again.
I love it. I love it. Like the importance of processing and allowing emotions to move through us. And I can resonate. I did the same. I would like lock myself in this, and I do it until today, I'm like the same.
Mm,
Like I just put on music and I just dance. And I could see this journey of like I had to decondition a lot because like so I live in like these like spiritual communities a lot, and of course I also there is part of me when sometimes it's too much. There is like this other extreme, like um, but I don't want to really go into it yet. What I really enjoy is these ecstatic dances where, like the people who created these spaces is basically like it's a space to go dance. You're not allowed to
mm,
speak. You're not
mm,
allowed to drink alcohol, and you just go there to process. And you even have roles like, hey, like I want to just dance alone, and you just dance alone. You can close your eyes, or you if somebody comes to you and wants to join, like there is a language. There's like, okay, like it's there's like sort of agreements made, so it's
mm.
very safe. And when I move out from like the dance world and the dance company, and I so identify with you, like with this like crisis of identity, suddenly I was like, okay, who am I now? Like, because we've done it for so long, and it's such a we're so driven, and we were so like like we it's like this whole idea, like the identity is all about me being dancer and choreographer, and
Into
suddenly
it.
I'm not that, and it's like, wow, it's like a big fall down of the ego. And like so I was kind of going through that too, and then I had a moment like I stopped dancing for 1 year, and my body was just like miserable. It was like, but I couldn't,
Mm,
like I couldn't reconnect with it because I was like, I need to completely let go, and I'm happy I did. And then I come back to it through these ecstatic dances where I was like
nice.
dancing suddenly like on a field of grass with like 50 people, and they just didn't care. They didn't care how they looked. They didn't care like how they moved. They just moved, and it was
Nice.
very inspiring.
Mm,
It brought a lot of joy to me. And then I was like, yeah, of course, like I used to do the same. I used to lock myself in the room and I would just improv and just let go of. I was processing. Like
mm,
that's what you
mm,
said. Like
mm,
it's such
mm,
a healing to process through. And as you said,
mm.
I love to say like authentic movement, right? Like that's what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's this really beautiful teacher, Tony Osborne, who teaches improvisation here, and
Mm,
he always starts the workshops or the lessons with like close your eyes, and it's just called authentic movement. And it's just like
mm,
it's just dance, it's just improv. Like there's so many ways to call it, but I use that now because I think it's really it resonates so well with me. although some people don't understand it if they don't have the vocabulary, or they don't, they're a bit inhibited because they're like, oh, maybe am I meant to, but once you can, you develop some sort of safety around the group, then like it's a really beautiful way um, to start. Yeah, yeah, authentic movement. And there was something that I wanted to add. Oh, when you're talking about identity, I was doing. I guess a big part of all of this as well is I've done half a degree of a social work degree, and two of my subjects, I guess, had massive impacts on me. One was community development, so creating communities from the ground up. But then the other one was identity. What was it called? Individual in society. That's what. Anyway, but it was all about identity, and I remember them saying like something about like your identity is not what you do. And it just blew my mind. I was like, no, I'm Renata the dancer. Duh. Like it just blew my mind. And I just like was like how, like it's just so crazy to think that that's who I was. Like yeah, and it's taken me a long time, and that I guess that's just a part of the dance reflection side of us and what we're doing now. But yeah, I just remember how simple that word was, that sentence was, yet like the massive impact. Like I made a whole work on it with mirrors because we hated mirrors. Well, we use mirrors so much, and I hate mirrors. Um, yeah, it was a really beautiful work, and it changed a lot of it was my process of that. Yeah, 100%.
Wow. I love it. I would love to see it.
Yeah, well, I did it for the university in that subject. So
Mm.
they got to experience the subject through my work,
Wow.
which is what they were learning about. Instead of just here, it was here.
Wow. Love
And
that.
this is the shit I really care about. I'm like, why are we learning here? That's what artists are
Mm.
for. We're meant to be the educators of the heart, I guess.
I love that. I would
Yeah,
the
it's
educators
kind
of
of
the
true.
heart. Yes, embodied
But
freedom.
I
That's what
don't
it
know if
is.
I've heard that before, but it is such a powerful thing what we do because people underestimate the arts. And I met this social enterprise community changer, amazing lady that lives close by to here.
Mm.
And I remember it was about 5 or 6 years ago, and she was like, "Yeah, the art should be the center of society. It's not this economic growth and blah blah." And I didn't really understand. I was like, yes, yes. I like, of course I'm an artist, so I want to say yes. But now I actually get it. Like there's
Mm.
there's so much not we don't feel, we don't yeah, it's very we've said it. It's
Yeah.
very head and
Mm.
yeah, not
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's really cool to kind of finally start to see the power of it.
Yeah.
Um, of
Beautiful.
what we do. Um,
Beautiful. So, is there
yeah.
one last thing you would like to share just to finish? Whether it's like a very powerful practice or just something that like comes to your mind right now. It doesn't have to be like a whole practice, but like let's say like a simple thing that or simple practice that you do for yourself or
Mm,
something, like you want to share, whether it's like, oh, I breathe between making my tea, or like I've, like whatever, if something comes to your mind.
yeah. Well, I always start my class with connection to Earth. In
Mm,
Australia, we acknowledge the First Nations people that have been here for thousands of years, and I think there's a lot of wisdom and grounding in the nature and the land. And it also helps me to kind of, that's why I said to you, I was like, we should do a meditation or something before we start. So I'm like, whew. So I definitely always start with just like feet on the ground, breath, and really like feeling and connecting
yeah.
to the earth and the nature of who we are, of the nature and how we're part of the nature. Sorry. Um, yeah, I think that's a really good way, which makes me want to put my feet on the ground and actually do it.
Mm, mm.
So I usually end the class, well, I end the class with two things. I end the class with this idea of a gift that
Mm,
isn't really to keep, it's just a gift to share around. So we're all acknowledging and thanking the people in the space, but also kind of this idea of gratitude and connecting to something you're grateful for in that moment.
mm,
But then using that feeling of gratitude and kind of and spreading it, letting it soak into the whole body.
mm,
So, yeah, so you can go on to your day, but still bring that class with you and
mm,
have like bits of it still there in all the different body parts, not just
mm.
um, wherever it's at.
Thank you. I love that. I love these two practices. I deeply resonate
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, it's so crazy how we've done these times, but we feel like time hasn't passed and we see each other. Oh, there's actually some things we've done. That's right.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's so nice to reconnect in this way and also like just hear you because yeah, I'm like, wow, okay. Like we're on a same similar path. So it's very inspiring
Mm,
hear you and like yes, what you're doing. Also, I remember when you said you're gonna move back to Australia, and I knew that that's not the easiest choice for you. And I feel like you were bringing a lot of yeah, a lot of beautiful work to your people, you know, and to your land. And I think it's inspiring. And also like being a mom and all that, like I don't have kids yet, but like there is part of me which is like I want to be a mother, and I also see how yeah, I respect, like I'm like wow, it's yeah, it's
mm,
the dedication.
it's something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much. Like,
That's a whole nother podcast.
yes, we could do like we could totally like do a podcast about like embodied mom. Like,
Embodied mom, 100%.
yeah.
Oh, I remember someone told me to meditate first thing in the morning as a mum, and I'm like, when do I have time for that? I don't even get to choose when I wake up. Like, don't
Yeah.
tell me. But I found ways. I have found ways. So it's interesting. Yeah,
Nice.
it's
Keep
very,
notes. Keep notes. I think
yeah,
that's like
yeah.
interesting work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.